Hello, everyone. This is Chapter 6 of the Brain Resource Creation Workshop, which focuses on the developing brain. We would like to extend a warm welcome to everyone watching this video right now, and we thank you for your interest in this workshop. This presentation is brought to you by Simply Neuroscience. It has been created by Phoebe and edited by Chris Shah, Prakriti Kadekar, Skylar Basco, Jed Kuwait, and Ria Patel. Our hosts today include myself, Krish, along with Andrea. So some important vocab to know before we get started with the presentation. These are a few important areas of the brain that you will see mentioned in this presentation. In order to comprehend this information, we will go over it in this workshop. It is crucial to get an overview of this vocab in order to comprehend our slideshow in the best possible manner. We will embark on our journey of the developing brain by visiting the frontal lobe. This structure is located in the front of the brain, and it is responsible for the voluntary movement, expressive language, and higher level thinking. This includes planning, organizing, and controlling one's responses. Next, we will visit the temporal lobe. This is located above the brainstem and the cerebellum. This region is responsible for auditory stimuli, language, visual perception, memory, and emotion. Like the temporal lobe, the parietal lobe is also responsible for a sense that we experience, touch and taste. It is located in the upper back area of the skull. In addition to touch and taste, temperature is also processed there. Lastly, we will cover the occipital lobe. This crucial lobe is located in the rear part of the brain, and it processes many aspects of vision, such as distance, perception, movement, and face recognition.
So beginning our journey of the developing brain, we need to start with the important process, which is synaptic pruning. So this process occurs in the early childhood and also adulthood part of our lives, in which the connections in the brain that are no longer necessary, they're removed. So synaptic pruning mainly takes place in the frontal lobe, while synaptic growth, or the building up of the connections in the brain, takes place in the temporal and parietal lobes. So some fun facts to know. A 3-year-old child possesses twice as many synaptic connections as an adult due to not having gone through synaptic pruning. And by 10 years of age, we have nearly 500 trillion synapses, which is roughly the average amount of an adult.
But how do we get to a sudden synaptic pruning? Doesn't there have to be connections built before breaking them? Well, you are right if you're asking this question, because that is certainly the case. During the completion of 5 months in the womb, 80 billion neurons would have been created to help form the adult cortex. By infancy, that number reaches approximately 100 billion.
So infancy is quite the stage for brain development, as rapid growth begins to occur throughout the entire brain, with the exception of the frontal lobe. This is especially noted within the occipital and temporal lobes, while the sensory areas within the parietal lobes also start to mature.
We will now touch upon the next major stage in life for the brain, early childhood. 90% of a child's brain development occurs before the age of 5, and it is during the first 3 years that we see the most rapid changes due to a bombardment of new life experiences, including auditory and visual stimuli, such as languages and recognizing one's parents. At this time, the brain is the most flexible and prepared to learn. That is why languages are most easily acquired during this time period.
So going a little further into the early childhood phase, brain development proceeds at an uneven pace between 3 and 10 months and also 15 and 20 months of age. Upon reaching the age of 6 months, the brain doubles in weight, while the neuron count remains constant following birth. And between the time when one is 6 and 8 years old, respectively, the development of the frontal lobe and the sensory and motor areas are the primary sites for growth.
Next comes the middle childhood phase. This is approximately around the age of 4, when the brain increases to 80% of an adult size. In the temporal lobe, auditory myelination is complete during this stage of life. This is necessary for insulation around the auditory nerves and long-term neurodevelopment. At 5 years old, the occipital lobe reaches adult levels. At between 6 to 7 years old, maturation of the occipital lobe is complete. And finally, at 8 years old, maturation of the temporal lobe and the brain is flexible for future learning.
Furthermore, 95% of the brain growth is reached by age 5. Brain growth is characterized by interrelated processes such as cell proliferation or overproduction of neurons, and also cell pruning, which is essentially the elimination of extra synapses.
Lastly, but not least, we will touch upon adolescence. During this crucial time period for maturation, there are two major brain spurts that occur between the ages of 13 and 15. During the first spurt, the cerebral cortex thickens and neuronal pathways become more efficient. In the second spurt, the frontal lobes of the cerebral cortex are the focus of development.
So here is a timeline of the overall brain development, which summarizes what was already discussed in the presentation so far. So although all of these phases come automatically to most human beings, they can be severely disrupted by abuse or neglect. So some examples include the frontal lobe, which develops improperly when deprived of affection and positive emotional experiences. Also, a lack of social experience can also cause the neurons in the brain to die off.
So with that, we will conclude our presentation today for Chapter 6. Thank you so much for joining us today for this workshop. We hope you visit our website, simplyneuroscience.org, for more information. Please feel free to contact us at any of these following email addresses if you have any other questions. With that, both myself and Andrea, thank you so much for attending this workshop, and we hope to see you at future ones. Thank you.